How did I create this cinematic astronaut scene in Blender in under 10 minutes? Hi, I'm Ravi from Mihira VFX, and in this video I'll break down exactly how I made this render from start to finish using a few quick tricks. So let's get started. I started by heading over to Sketchfab to find a 3D model of an astronaut. After browsing for a bit, I found this really cool one by Jungle Gym. It even came with a built-in animation. I downloaded the .glb file with 1K textures, which is super handy because all the textures are packed into one file. No need to manually reconnect the missing maps. Next, I opened up Blender and deleted the default objects. Then I added a plane, scaled it up to fit the scene, and applied the scale. I imported the astronaut.glb file and adjusted the plane again to match the scene's proportions. Time to set up the camera. Since this was going to be an Instagram post, I changed the render resolution to 1080 into 1920 for a vertical format. I opened a second window so I could preview the render while working. Then I increased the camera's and set the focal length to 16mm to get that nice wide cinematic look. To fill up the environment, I used the Botanic add-on. Under Scatter Assets, I chose a foliage pack with flowers. Set the count to 15,000 and increased the scale for some natural variation. Now let's light the scene. I switched the renderer to cycles and set up an HDRI sky image from my collection. After some trial and error, I found one that gave me the look I wanted. Using a mapping node, I rotate the HDRI to control the light direction. To add more cinematic color contrast, I added two area lights, one with a subtle cyan tone and another with a warm orange tone. This gave the astronaut that nice teal and orange look. To make it more cinematic, I added a volumetric fog. I created a cube that covers the whole scene, added a new material, deleted the default shader and used a principled volume node. I plugged that into the volume input, reduced the density and increased the anisotropy for a soft glowy look. To keep things clean in the viewport, I set the display mode of the cube to bounce. Then I animated the camera. On frame 1, I placed it at the start point, set a keyframe, then moved it closer to the astronaut by frame 150 and set another keyframe. I changed the interpolation mode to linear for smooth motion. For focus, I created an empty, enabled depth of field in the camera settings and targeted that empty with an f-stop value of 0.4. I also turned on motion blur to give it that cinematic feel. At this point, the animation looked great in preview, so I moved on to rendering. I set the sample count to 30, changed the viewport transform to AGX, and used OpenEXR with the DWAA lossy compression for better quality and flexibility. Frame rate was set to 24 FPS, the classic cinematic frame rate. Then, I used the most powerful shortcut in Blender, Ctrl F12. And off it went, rendering frame by frame. It took around 3 hours to finish, mostly because of the heavy foliage. Once rendering was done, I imported the EXR sequence into DaVinci Resolve and did a quick color correction, grading pass and added some background music, and this is the final result.